The moment you decided to watch this, was that actually you? The real one? Not the answer you'd give out loud. You were somewhere else, phone in hand or close to it. Something unfinished behind you. And then, without a clear moment of choosing, you were here. You'd say you clicked, you decided, but the click came before the decision. Something moved first, and you followed. That's going to stay with you. Not because it's hard to understand, because it's hard to argue with. And some part of you already knows it. Here's the actual situation. Right now, your brain is doing what it always does. Scanning, filtering, deciding what matters. You're not passively watching, you're constructing. Every second, your mind is building a version of reality from whatever it's pointed at. That process has a name. Attention, not focus, not mindfulness, not the thing you're supposed to protect with morning routines. Attention, the raw mechanism, the one that was shaped long before you had any say in the shaping. Here's what they don't say out loud. Attention isn't a skill you lost. It's a door someone else built, and you were handed it, already half open, pointed in a direction you didn't choose. University of California researchers tracked knowledge workers, people with jobs, deadlines, the full illusion of control. Average sustained focus before interruption, self-caused or external, 47 seconds, not 47 minutes, 47 seconds. That's not a personal failing. That's not your generation. That's architecture. Someone engineered a world your attention biologically cannot hold and branded the damage as your problem. You've had the feeling. You looked up from a screen, from a conversation, from a Tuesday evening that somehow became midnight, and you couldn't account for the gap. You were one place, then another. Nothing in between that you'd call a choice. Most people label it. Tired, autopilot, stress. What if it's none of those? What if that frictionless, almost gentle slide from one moment to the next, no resistance, no decision, is exactly what a collapsing attentional system feels like from the inside? Not fog, just gravity toward whatever was already waiting. Think about the last time you drove somewhere and arrived with no memory of the drive, not tired, not distracted, just gone. Traveling through your own life without being in it. You were there, but nothing was recording. Whole minutes of your life, already gone. That's not an accident. That's the filter on autopilot. By age 7, most children have developed what psychologists call an attentional filter, an unconscious sorting system. What's worth noticing? What gets discarded? By adolescence, that filter is set. Built from environment, from household, from thousands of hours of media absorbed before anyone understood what absorption meant. You didn't design your filter, you inherited it, and then you trusted it completely. And now, every day without thinking, you look through it. You call what you see reality. You call your reactions instinct. You call your preferences yours. But filters don't just let things in. They decide what you never see at all. Right now, in this moment, your brain is discarding approximately 11 million bits of sensory information per second. 11 million. Every heartbeat in your chest, every thread in the fabric of the seat you're sitting on, every sound outside the window you stopped hearing months ago, you're consciously processing 40 bits out of 11 million. That is your experience. That is your entire life as you know it. And you did not choose which 40. Your filter did. The one you didn't build. Put the screen down for a second. You won't. But notice that you didn't. You're not watching this because you chose to. You're watching this because stopping requires something you're currently out of. That gap you just felt between knowing and doing. That's everything this video is about. Already. Before the argument even started. The kind of tired that doesn't feel like tired anymore. It just feels like you, behind the eyes. There since longer than last week. The kind that makes reaching feel easier than deciding. That exhaustion isn't background noise, it's the whole signal. Because when attention fatigues, it doesn't scatter, it narrows, it abandons complexity and moves toward whatever is loudest, brightest, requires the least from you. And Someone built a world entirely out of loud, bright, easy things, knowing exactly when you'd be too tired to question them. Harvard, large-scale study on mind wandering, tens of thousands of data points people contacted throughout their actual days. The result was this. People were not unhappy because of their circumstances. They were unhappy because they weren't present for their lives. 47% of waking hours, nearly half, spent mentally somewhere other than where the body was. Replaying, anticipating, drifting, almost half a life, unlived. Not because anything was wrong, because attention had been trained or depleted out of the present entirely. And the part nobody talks about, the content of the thoughts didn't matter. Pleasant daydreams made people just as unhappy as anxious ones. Absence was the variable, not the destination. Think about the last time your hand reached for your phone, before you knew why. Not boredom, before boredom. That half second, no thought, no trigger, just movement. That wasn't you deciding. You were the water, and someone engineered the slope, not toward you, toward them. Because this isn't about platforms. The villain in this story isn't a company. It's not even a system. It's the version of yourself that got built while you were too depleted to notice. When you're genuinely rested, you have a self, a direction, opinions you arrived at, a sense of this matters to me, that doesn't. When you're chronically depleted, which most people in the modern world are permanently, that self starts to thin. You stop asking what you want, you start asking what's available. You stop making choices and start making selections from a menu someone else designed. And slowly, without drama, without a single moment you could point to, you become someone slightly different than you meant to be. You laugh at things you didn't used to find funny. You stopped reading. You don't know exactly when. Not broken, not lost, just quietly replaced. Here's something that's been understood for a long time. One of the oldest ideas in philosophy, rarely said plainly. Consciousness isn't passive, it's always aimed. You are never simply aware, you are always aware of something, which means attention doesn't receive reality. It manufactures it. What you point your mind at, consistently, habitually across years, that becomes your world. Not metaphorically, functionally. The rest simply doesn't exist for you. So if your attention has been quietly redirected, not by your choices, but by your fatigue, by systems built to exploit it, then the world you've been constructing every day. Whose world is it? Most accepted ideas don't survive careful attention. They survive exhaustion. Think about that. Were you rested when your most important beliefs arrived? Not because they're false, because a depleted mind doesn't evaluate what it receives. It absorbs. Like a wet surface doesn't choose what sticks. It just doesn't have the friction to push anything away. Because clarity right now is the most expensive thing there is. Here's the crack. If attention builds reality, and it does, then a chronically fatigued mind isn't living a smaller life because of circumstance. It's building a smaller life every single day from the only materials it has left. And the unbearable part, it feels like normal. It feels like this is just how things are. It feels like Tuesday and then Wednesday and then another year. But what if the ceiling you keep hitting isn't a ceiling? What if it's a wall you built from exhaustion and called reality? What if every time you thought this is what I'm capable of, you were actually just measuring what attention fatigue is capable of? What if you have never actually seen your own full range? So here is what's true. You have been building a world every day through a filter you didn't design, in a state of fatigue that was partially manufactured, inside an environment that profits from keeping both conditions permanent. And the version of you doing the building, it's not the whole version. Somewhere underneath the drift, underneath the narrowed filter and the borrowed beliefs and the decisions that were never quite decisions, there's a you with actual range, actual curiosity, actual capacity to look at the world and see more than 40 bits. Still there, just quiet, just starved of the conditions to appear. That's the answer, if the world didn't change. But you did.